Hey guys, Cecil here once again. Hey, in today's video, I wanted to do another In Defense Of, and that's In Defense of the Wii. Now, why am I doing an In Defense Of on a current console? Mainly for the reason that I think the Wii gets a lot of unnecessary flack as far as being a worthwhile system. I mean, I hear a lot of other gamers who just kind of write it off as like another kiddie system from Nintendo. There's nothing worth playing on it. Just a lot of different reasons for basically just ignoring it altogether. The waggle and everything. I think that problem kind of stems initially from when the system first came out back in 2006. Obviously, the idea of motion controls at the time were brand new, and that's why it sold as well as it did. And there was a lot of hype and interest in what the potential of those motion controls could be. The problem is, as the game started coming out and the system kind of got into its cycle, the first couple of years there, a lot of it was just shovelware. There was a lot of, really not very well thought out gaming that just did do waggle. And I think a lot of gamers looked at the library and they saw there wasn't a whole lot that appealed to them as far as, first-person shooters and things like that, and they just saw a lot of these waggle games. The games didn't look good as the HD consoles, so they just kind of wrote it off as, not worth playing and, never gave it another look. And to be fair, there is a lot of shovelware, but on any market-leading console that has sold the most units, you're going to find a lot of shovelware. You'll find it on the PS2, the PS1. You'll find shovelware on the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, even the NES. All those really, really well-selling systems had a lot of bad games. But looking through that, if you actually take the time to look at the library, and there's definitely a lot of great gems, and that's also true for the Wii. And today I'm going to just show you 5 games that I've kind of pulled out of my collection that I had a lot of fun with, and that I definitely think you could check out. There's definitely a lot more than these 5 that I'm going to talk about today, but it would take a long time to go through a lot of the better games for the Wii, and that's a topic for multiple videos. But I'm just going to kind of show you 5 underrated titles that I think are definitely worth your time, that they're relatively easy to find and they're not very expensive. You can still find them relatively cheap on websites like Amazon, and GameStop, or other big box retailers. But yeah, like I said, I'm not saying the Wii doesn't have its problems. It definitely does. There's definitely a lot of crap on the system, and there is a bit of a stereotype that it does have its issues. But like I said, that can be true of any system. But in comparison to, like, say, the 360 and the PS3, obviously the graphics aren't going to be as good. The Wii was never meant to be more than basically a souped-up GameCube. But for the games that, if you go into playing the Wii understanding that, and you look at some of the bigger games like the Mario Galaxies, Skyward Sword, Monster Hunter Tri, and some of the other more major big 3D games that really tap the potential of the system, if you got an HD TV that can has component input, those games, in my opinion, look really, really good in 480p 16:9. They're not going to be Modern Warfare 3 caliber graphics or anything, but the system just isn't capable of doing that. So if you go into that understanding that, I think you'll definitely be pleased with what the system is capable of. I mean, I can, but for me it's probably a bit easier because I can go from playing one of the HD consoles to the NES no problem. For some other gamers that's not as easy to do. Graphics do mean something, and I can definitely understand that. But enough kind of talking about the system. We're going to just kind of start looking at the games that I pulled out that I definitely think are worth looking at. And the first one is Little King Story. Now, I kind of mentioned this a little bit in my Xseed video. It's basically, my copy is still sealed, but I borrowed a friend's copy a while ago, and I got into it a little bit. I just meant to pick the game up myself, which I did, but I haven't opened it to continue my game. It's kind of a pauper to a prince kind of story. You're a little, boy who finds a crown, and all of a sudden you're thrust into this role as a king, and it's kind of a strategy game / role-playing game, and you can command your subjects to learn different jobs, to go get resources, to build levels, and basically go take over other kingdoms. And your goal is basically, as the little king, to take over the world, more or less. It's a fun little gem that Xseed published in the US, and it's definitely worth checking out. I had fun with it for about the 10 hours I put into it when I borrowed my friend's copy, but he wanted it back. So that's another game I've been meaning to get into. But this one isn't too expensive. I think it's about $20 to $30 on Amazon last I checked. So yeah, definitely check that one out if you're into those kind of games. The next one, I had a lot of fun with this one. It's got its issues, but it's such a beautiful game in the style it was made, and that's Muramasa. Just the hand-drawn 2D graphics are just, it's hard to say. I mean, they're just beautiful. I mean, the art style is great. The animation is really fluid and beautiful. I mean, the biggest drawback with this game is there's a lot of backtracking, and you do got to do a lot of exploring. But it's a minor gripe for the overall great hack and slash style 2D gameplay, and just some of the bosses and the animation are just amazing in this. And I think this game is like $10-15 now. It's just dirt cheap. And if you're looking for a really solid Wii game, definitely check this one out. I had a lot of fun with that one. Another one in a similar style, although not quite as over the top, is a Buoyancy Blob. Now I got this game right after it came out. I wasn't a huge fan of the NES game, but I definitely just like the art style of this. It's almost kind of I would say a Miyazaki Studio Ghibli style of animation. Very beautiful hand-drawn 2D graphics. It's like the basic premise of the Buoyancy Blob is you befriend this blob that you find out in the middle of the night, outside your house, and you basically have to use him to progress through the world to stop this dark power that's trying to take over. And basically you feed the blob different jelly beans, and it'll turn into like a ladder or a cannon or rocket ship, or he'll surround you in a bubble, or he'll become a parachute. He can become a bunch of different things once you feed him a particular kind of jelly bean. And I just think the gameplay is so unique. The animation is just so well done. It's not an overly long game, and each level you have certain kind of jelly beans that you have access to. So you can only use certain kinds of forms that the blob will make to progress through each stage. But just for like Muramasa, just the art style and the graphics, if you don't mind, very pretty 2D style graphics. I mean, this is definitely another gem that was widely looked over, and I can't recommend this one enough. A great pseudo sequel to the remake of the original Buoyancy Blob way back on the NES. Great Wii game. Definitely worth checking out for the pittance it goes for these days. Another game I had a lot of fun with that's kind of reminds me of Eco in its style is Lost in Shadow. It's basically it's another 2D platformer, and as you kind of can see, there's kind of a bit of a 2D theme with some of the games I pulled out, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You basically have to use your shadow to progress through different stages and puzzles. It's a puzzle platformer more or less, and this was one of the last games Hudson did before they were unfortunately before they went bankrupt and ran out of money. And again, it's just a unique art style. I remember watching a video on the Nintendo channel about the developer. He was saying, hopefully you'll play this game and it will be one of those fond games you'll remember. And I kind of watching that video and then playing this game, just the amount of great games Hudson has released over the years when they started on the TurboGrafx 16 and everything, and moved on to become a developer for other consoles, and the gems they've had over the years. And this was kind of one of their last games they ever did, and it's just a beautiful. If you like Eco, if you like that style of graphics and everything, it's just 2D versus 3D. If you like puzzle platformers, definitely check this one out. I had a lot of fun with this one. And the last one is kind of a bit of an oddball. And I say that because the rest of the game in the series are more of a party style, and this one was kind of done more in a platformer. And that is Rabbids Go Home. Now, like I said, the original Rayman Rabbids games were more mini games, party style, like Mario Party or whatever style mini games. And they kind of did a bit of a different direction. This is the fourth game in the series, I believe, because the one they did the next year, because Rabbids 1, 2, and 3 came out each year, and then they came out with this one, and then they did Rabbids TV Party, I think. Don't quote me on that. I don't know the succession of the Rabbids series. But the Rabbids have become one of Ubisoft's, streamline, mainstream, franchises now. I mean, they've been on the Kinect, they've been on the 3DS and a lot of other things. Basically, the Rabbids are trying to get home on the moon, and you play as two different Rabbids. One rides around in a shopping cart, and the other one pushes. And you basically have to go around in each stage and collect junk. And the junk basically is piling up so they can get back to the moon. The Rabbids are basically, deformed-looking rabbits that are just make really silly, stupid sounds and just really over-the-top, slapstick-style comedy that they do. But it's a pretty fun little game. Not a very long game. But if you're into platformers and you want to try something different from the Mario Galaxy games to kill a weekend, I would recommend trying this one out. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not like the other Rabbids games, which are party games or anything. This is like a first-person perspective platformer, basically. Definitely have a lot of fun with that. So those are kind of just my general look at some underrated Wii gems. There's a lot of other great Wii games. There's some really good RPGs like Fragile Dreams, Arc Rise Fantasia, a sequel to Tales of Symphonia, and Xenoblade obviously just came out. And Last Story, I think it just got announced as August 14th for that date for the U.S. So there's still there's a lot of great games out there, and there's definitely a handful of good games still coming for the Wii, even though with the Wii U coming out in November now, more than likely. So definitely the Wii as a whole, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of disappointed that it seemed to me like after Christmas of 2010 when like GoldenEye, Epic Mickey, Donkey Kong Country, those handful of Christmas titles came out that year, it felt like Nintendo more or less ignored the Wii. There really hasn't been a whole lot of big titles for the Wii that have come out since that. It's almost 18 months of a really, really big dearth of software on the Wii. There's like, I think last year the big titles were like Kirby, Skyward Sword was obviously the big Christmas title, and there was like maybe one or two others. And then this year I know there was like Rhythm Heaven I picked up, which was pretty good, and then Xenoblade came out, and we're going to be getting Last Story. But these are 1-2 worthwhile titles every couple of months. Obviously isn't going to make a very strong library, but all the stuff that came out prior to that, Christmas 2010 when it just kind of stopped. And Nintendo kind of went on to focus on the 3DS a little more, and now they're developing for the Wii U. There's still a lot of great games on the Wii, if you still have one that's sitting there collecting dust, that are worth your time to go back and check out, because I definitely think you'll have a lot of fun with it. I mean, especially if you're kind of getting sick of the Modern Warfare 3 and all the, to me it almost feels kind of like stale games, because it seems like it's just sequel. We're seeing the big releases on the HD consoles that are come out. It's like Resident Evil 6, Borderlands 2, Black Ops 2. It seems like a lot of the big mainstream developers are just kind of staying safe with their big franchises, making sequels, not really expanding too much. And I'm not saying those games are bad. Please don't misunderstand me. But if you're looking to try some different stuff and you got your Wii sitting there, you don't want to trade it in or anything, and you want to try something unique, try one of those games that I mentioned, or go out there and really kind of look at the Wii. Ask. There's a lot of great forums on there that people can give you great recommendations for. And check out IGN. There's definitely a lot of great games out there for the Wii that you might have missed over the last few years if you haven't really given the Wii much, of a try since Donkey Kong or Mario Galaxy 2. So that's my look at the Wii. Definitely, if you have any comments, what are your thoughts on the Wii? Feel free to leave a comment below. Do you think it's a great, underrated little system, or do you think it's just, waggle crap? I don't even bother with it. I sold mine years ago. Just let me know what you think. Otherwise, I will see you guys later. You take it easy. I'll see you next time.